Howdy, Banger pals. Blaine Smith coming at you for another Overkill Reviews, Banger's weekly metal review show, and I am in the newest iteration of the Banger Hanger. We finally have a space again, so we can start bringing out some of the old knickknacks, trophies, whatnots, and get the place looking proper. So work in progress. Let us know, and also let's listen to Death. I'm in the office. We're listening to Death Doom. Yes, it's the new album from Temple of Void called The Crawl. It's out March 6th on Relapse Records. If you're a longtime Banger viewer, you probably are familiar with these guys. There's a great back and forth between them and the Banger team. Sarah reviewed them twice. I featured them in Metal Monthly once. I've interviewed them. We've had them on a live stream. So I'll keep it brief. Watch any of that if you want to learn more about them. Formed in 2013 Detroit, Temple of Void are that Blaine's Choice brand of Death Doom, and I'm making a President's Choice reference. I'm sure most of our viewers have shopped at the Loblaws grocery stores before. I'm supposed to be keeping it brief. Lineup changes, new bass player in Justin Malik, and they are also now a four-piece, losing one guitar player technically, but Mike, who already contributed guitars in more smaller amounts to previous albums while also doing vocal duties, is now just the full second guitar player. So not that much of a drastic shift about the band. So let's just find out if this is a President's Choice or a Great Value record. Great Value is a brand you might be more familiar with. The President's Choice is actually pretty good. Much like with drop sets, weightlifting, this album's heaviest parts are at the start of the record because, as a reminder, I'm strong now. I'm not bigger because I'm fat. I'm bigger because I lift big weights. I'm also a little fatter. Yeah, I'm turning 40. What do you want from me? But it's a good thing because 80% of the press release for this thing was like, Death Doom, screw that noise. They're a goth industrial rock band. Could care less about Death Doom. I'm being hyperbolic, but there was a lot of noise made about them mixing in outside influences and not feeling confined by Death Doom as a genre, and that does give you a bit of that sinking feeling when you read it. But what hearing grunge and post-punk in a press release about a Death Doom record might make you think, the record doesn't even start with some wind or whooshing noise or nonsense. It starts straight into a guitar solo, so hell yeah. Like a minute and a half into Poison Icon, we get some guitars that are absolutely post-punky, but they're brief before things get heavy again and lead into another little ripper of a solo. So obviously, I'm not bothered by this. Also, I'm not bothered by this because my album of the year in 2025 was Floating, which is a band that mixes death metal and post-punk. Cool. Actually, outside of the aforementioned post-punk snippets here and there and a bass line on The Crawl that might make you ouch. Over the first three tracks, you might think you've been had. Just classic marketing lingo selling a normal metal album to you. Damn you, capitalism, is there anything you can't ruin? Capitalism, it ruins everything. And if you're gonna get in the comment section about loving capitalism, you better have capital, brother. Speaking of capital, we do need that to have this rolling. So if you are a massive if you do own factories, we're more than happy to take on a large donor. But Thankfully, we don't have large donors here. We just have a community of support, and then I don't have to plug a weird ad that makes me feel uncomfortable, and you don't have to sit through a weird ad that makes you uncomfortable. And we toss a bunch of stuff, a bunch of extra content over the Patreon, tip sheets, stuff. Sam's been doing a bunch of stuff over there. We've got our old docs, deleted features, blah blah blah. We're trying to just give you want a YouTube that's just metal content. Well, that's our Patreon. It's funny that Hooded Menace released an album with gothic influences, and so did Temple of Void, like at the same time, basically. It's like that twin film thing that'll happen, Volcano and Dante's Peak. Maybe it's because everyone thinks they want a goth baddie, thinking it's going to be all freaky, not realizing how much antiquing is involved with having a goth girlfriend. Hope you don't want to watch the game. Your girlfriend needs to find more jank vintage cryptid taxidermy, and she's still going to want to go to the symphony. It's just going to be Final Fantasy music. Well, I've never been a goth and have stressed what I think is the difference between gothic and capital G goth in the past.
Cue the goth shit.
There has been enough of a revival of the good parts from that scene for me to be quite pleased when it's done right. So yeah, the little touches of post-punk early on are good, but they're just little touches. Second from the last track, Soulburn, as you might guess from the very gothic sounding name, is the most gothic of all the tracks. Thankfully, they really threaded the needle on that one too. It's something I feel is very easy to mess up, but it lands, and the only downside to it is that it's one song, and the album could have used a bit more of an injection of it. It surely would fit back to back with a Hooded Menace Duran Duran cover and a DJ set. So if you like that, there is that vibe here, and my only complaint is crank it up a little bit, but sprinkle it around a bit more. You only gave me a dusting at first. I like bands, I like experimenting. I mean, I was just talking about Hooded Menace going goth, but the whole thing about experiments is you don't know how they're gonna go. It's not really experimenting if you do. As a result, sometimes they don't work. If you're experimenting in the kitchen, sometimes you make something that tastes gross. I sort of have a cilantro thing with grunge. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy some Melvins, but because of my age, I grew up in more the post-grunge boom and a big black. So when I hear some fat bass on, say, a Dead Issue, I can get a history of bad men, but I also get a history of bad men's music I had to hear on the radio. A Christian guy's rock selling me a truck, or a guy with an eyebrow piercing soundtracking trying to get me to join the Navy. I'm Canadian. How am I going to join the U.S. Navy, Godsmack? The other funny thing about experiments is sometimes you try and make something new and you don't. There's a few spots where everything going on kind of makes it like about mainstream death doom, which I know sounds stupid, but like Swallow the Sun are quite large. And Is Thy Mountain Eternal a Swallow the Sun song? God, no. Mike's taking a more active role in guitar, not taking a more active role in clean singing. It's harsh vocals throughout. It's just a bit more, it just sounds a little more something like I've heard, a little more conventional, a little more safe, and I don't want Temple of Void to sound like a normal Death Doom band. Thankfully, these issues are predominantly contained to tracks 4 and 5 of 7. The aforementioned Soulburn is 6, great success, and the album closes really strong on the Twin Stranger. It is a long, heavy Death Doom track with a touch of the melancholic guitars from Soulburn. It's a song that sounds written to cap off an album. You know, they're a professional band. They've done a lot, and they've done a lot great. If they want to close an album strong, they're still going to close an album strong. So the album structure does mitigate a good chunk of the not extreme, but mild negative feelings I have about the middle bit. In my headcanon, it also reinforces my opinion that these are the weaker tracks on the album. Stronger tracks sort of quarantine them, not to trigger anyone with the word quarantine, but my interview with Temple of Void was virtual due to lockdowns. To look at it optimistically, it does also reinforce that I think they succeeded with this part of the experiment, and it does provide a pretty clear path forward for the band should they choose to take it. Mixing their brand of heavy death doom with their good taste in post-punk and gothic elements more thoroughly would make for a delightful record, and it makes for most of a delightful record here. But yeah, maybe get the grunge out of here. Maybe bye grunge. I know how much we've talked about how much they love grunge. I know, but I don't know. I'm 40 and I'm like, grunge is too old for me. That's old man music. So, a little complicated feelings about the record. Hey, Temple of Void continue to progress, and they've found new elements to integrate into their sound, and they do so successfully. Great. What a fruitful experiment. What about those little freaks over there, though? Well, when you're making an omelet, sometimes you gotta freakishly mutate an embryo. So the album is being pulled a bit in two different ways. It's not enough stress to tear it asunder. I feel like there's, as I said, a great path forward for Temple of Void, and the majority of this record is there. It's just that it needs to kind of coalesce a bit more and maybe shed a vestigial limb that really ain't grabbing, at least me. But as we've said, I never got into grunge. Rating 3.5 out of 5 mutant skulls. Make them weird looking. So, what did you think about the Temple of Void record? Are you do you celebrate the guy's entire catalog as well? Obviously, massive fan. So this is coming from it's what I want out of a band. So let me know. Does the grunge shit better for you? What do you think? But before we do that, let us get on to, of course, shout out. We have a couple more albums to talk about. So I always try and theme my shoutouts with the record, and that hasn't worked lately. It's the start of the year. There isn't necessarily the largest bounty March 6th. So I have two records I like. Do they sound like that? No. Mega Colossus from Metal Monthly is releasing Watch Out on Cruz del Sur Music March 6th. That is some wacky heavy metal. And also coming out March 6th is Vreid with The Skies Turn Black indie recordings March 6th. That is black metal. There is like no death metal or death doom or anything that I was excited about this week. I even looked at last week. God, but don't worry, end of March gets nutty.